I think the craziest thing was a boat. Yeah, it was like, the guy's like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I already have a boat, but thank you. It's 15 years old, but it's, he's like, no, I'll put it right in your driveway. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know you bought a couple cars from us. I appreciate it, but like, we're going to go through the process because I still need a job for another 20 years.
Welcome to the Automotive Advantage. Grow your business and get smarter in just 1 hour.
Justin, we promised everybody we'd bring them the best of the auto industry and the automotive aftermarket industry and the motorsports world here at Automotive Advantage. Today, another great guest, the best at what he does in the world. Alan Johnson is here. He is the best Corvette salesman on the face of the planet, and he's right here in Pontiac, Michigan, from Maddox Chevrolet. Alan, thanks for coming to Automotive Advantage, my guy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't realize this is what a card-carrying member of the GM Road Racing Mafia got me, so love it.
Well, we're going to talk about that membership in a bit.
Well, that was a lot of hype.
I got my Corvette shirt on.
Yeah, you really Corvetted out.
I got my cut-off jeans on, and you did put some New Balances on.
I got my New Balances on. Your AARP card, I saw that in the wallet earlier.
Did you?
Yeah. We're, to be transparent, we've both bought Corvettes from Alan.
He's good.
He's good.
Very good.
I think all of Metro Detroit has at one point or another. But other than glazing Alan for being the best, the point of this podcast is to understand how to work with a dealership the best way possible, because everyone hates working with a dealership. I think that's number one. Fair. Number two, what's going on with Corvette in 2026? We don't have to get into trade secrets, but how do I buy Corvettes? What's the best way to do it? What kind of options? And Alan's done a lot of work recently. If you're not following him, go do that on Facebook and Instagram, kind of talking about these things. So I'm excited to dive into it. We'll start with the hardest question though. What is the greatest single model Corvette ever built?
How can you say this without prefacing exactly what the use for it is? I don't know, man. This is like, you're going to make me run through like a 69 L88. Then you're going to make me remember when I was a 9-year-old that was looking at a 1990 ZR1. For me, I'm biased, but peak front engine Corvette for me. And the car I still miss the most is my C7 Grand Sport.
Perfect answer. Obviously, I agree. 2019 Grand Sport is peak Corvette for me. ZR1 obviously is in the mix as well. You're also a C7 Z06 owner.
Yeah, Z06 was probably a little bit better than the Grand Sport.
Well, I mean, it's not. It's not. That would be.
Okay.
It depends what your use case is, right?
It does depend what your use case is. If it's putting it in your driveway and then driving it to car shows, I would give Z06 the edge there.
That's okay. I'll take that. I win. That's good.
That is your use case, so that's perfect.
It is your use case. It's good.
All right, where do we want to start? We have so much to cover here.
Yeah, so, look, I think for everybody, we're going to go Corvette-centric, but for everybody listening to this, watching this, this is going to apply to buying any new vehicle, any truck, any other brand, but Alan's our guy on the inside, and he's going to share some secrets. So I guess, why don't we start there, Alan? Like, if I'm going to buy a new car, what should I do to be prepared to come to a dealership? And then certainly drift into the Corvette space as you want to apply it, but help people get prepared for the buying experience.
Yeah, it's kind of like anything. Use all the resources of the internet, which you got to be careful with some of them, but like research the model. Like it's so easy to go look for a car now once you've determined it. But the other things you got to figure out, like, okay, use case. When you get to a dealership, I mean, let's face it, just Chevrolet alone's got 3,200 dealerships, right? So you need to understand the industry over the past 20, 30 years has become a little more transient, and, frankly, not everybody's a car guy in dealerships like they were in the 80s and 90s. And because that position has been a little more transient, the person you deal with is probably a little more important. Now, Metro Detroit, we're such a heavy leasing market. You can stumble into $400 leases just about anywhere, and there's trucks here and there. That's one thing. But if you're going to purchase the vehicle, figure out where your position is personally, what you're actually going to spend comfortably, and, do your checking with your credit union. There's like, I know this is probably industry blasphemy, but like, okay, figure out your best rate. Dealers do have buying power to get you a better rate. and it's not every dealer's trying to jam, but if you come prepared and you say, hey, I can get 5.5%. If you can beat this, I'll go through financing. That's fair for all parties. They get their financing portion. You get a better rate. That's kind of the win-win. The finance office is probably the biggest bone of contention. So look at reviews. I mean, there's some dealers make it a painful and arduous process. Fortunately, where I'm at, we've streamlined it. It's the only place I've worked where, from the time you say yes to the time you're actually done doing your paperwork, it can be double-digit minutes, not going to be 180-minute, bloodbath. And research the products too, man. There's viable products in there too. We were just talking about C7 Corvettes. We used to sell wheel and tire policies, that served our customers really well. When you look at warranties, think about, best example I have is my tech that I've had for 10 years now. He put a $27 part in a C8. It was a temperature sensor. He pulled the motor to do it. So I have a $27 part that had a $4,000, $4,000 labor, right? So now when you look at some of these things over the course of your ownership, factor this with your budget too. Don't go financing something for 120 months, or don't do a influencer lease for $5,000 a month or whatever. But think about it. These are things. Okay, if you can't budget it, maybe you do budget space to do a warranty or something like that. If you're a car guy and you're modifying, we know where warranties intersect there, and you're probably better off just planning to pay for your own stuff, which you already have. But those are just things to consider, right? There's online payment calculators. There's all kinds of stuff available out there. Look at what rates are looking like right now. All that stuff. Don't, if someone throws a Foursquare at you, which is literally a piece of paper, say, hey, this is your sale price. This is your trade. This is your payment. This is this with $92,000 down on a $100,000 car. Just walk away. Save yourself the pain. When you look at reviews, there's plenty of sources out there. Look for specific individuals. If a guy is selling 1,500 cars a year, there's a reason for it, and he's very, very good, and it might be worth waiting to talk to somebody like that. I'm a gearhead and a car guy, so I'm dug into Corvette since I was born, literally. And it's different with me because I'm not trying to make you spend a whole lot of money. I'm trying to get you the right car for the money. You don't need to spend $180,000 to get the right car. So you think about things, value isn't just in the price of the car. A lot of it's how you're dealt with. Think about your service considerations, man. If you're going to buy a car that has some of these rather specific maintenances, find somebody that can talk about this stuff competently in sales, that can actually say, hey, yeah, I work with the guy over here. He's worked with me for 10 years. By the way, this is what we do. And keep people protected in that manner. And, it's an ecosystem, right? Most dealerships you're going to go to are going to function as separate individuals. Service and sales, it's like battle of epic proportions where, I'm walking around my service area and I'm talking to my guys and they understand, how important it is. We make it worth their time to take their time when they work on a Corvette and stuff like that. So you got to look at it as a whole. Yes, that $299 payment on a $58,000 Silverado looks awesome, but consider the other factors over the course of your ownership. Does that dealership that you're dealing with locally, do they have loaner cars readily available? Because that can put you in a pretty bad spot if they don't. Think about that stuff. Somebody's been there for a while that's been around. What have you heard? Has someone referred you to them? All things you can look at that will actually improve the total ownership experience past just the buying experience.
We're going to ask more about the dealership experience, but I want to establish Alan's brand and reputation. So I heard about you when I was a GM employee before you and I met. And it was your connections in the corporation, and you mentioned your road racing addiction, right? And that brings you in line with other people and Corvette engineers and program specialists. But talk about your connections and how important it is to have a dealer and a salesperson that understands the bigger vision of the vehicle and who's behind it and where these things are going.
Absolutely. And this started, primarily my whole Corvette thing really took off in 2014, 2015 when we set out the initiative. with Corvette specifically, there are some specific individuals, and you know how this goes at GM, you know, there's a brand quality manager, and I had a pretty good established relationship with him, and it wasn't like we were trading secrets. It was like, hey man, hey Jeff, I got this issue on this car. What's your recommendation? Can you help me save some time and help me guide my technician? And those things turn out to be pretty big, because if you go to a place that doesn't have the experience with doing things like this, you don't have those resources. And, you know, at least in the Midwest, if you lose your car for 3 weeks on something that could have been fixed in 3 hours, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, that's valuable time to us. You know, you go to California, you can go to Cars and Coffee any Sunday of the year. Out here, you know, there's like a 5-time multiplier because we only have 4 months to do what we really want to do with these, right? So I think those are the biggest things. You know, we deal really well, and we'll, from time to time, you know, I'll hear somebody that's one of my track buddies is going to go and say, hey, my buddy had this happen. He had this happen. And then we establish a connection. And even though I'm primarily on the sales side, he's like, hey, can you help me out? Cool. I go back to service, say, hey, we need to fit this in. Let's look at this. You know, we already pre-established these things. And it's nice because frankly, all the people that I've had that we service that come from there, they've already got a pretty good idea as to helping us as to what's gone wrong. You know what I mean? So we have a good established relationship with people that are helping us along the way, but also the people that are bringing their cars in typically have the insights to help us out as well. But I mean, it's about treating people. It's so abundantly, it's so crazy to think about it, but it's just treating people correctly. Like, that's $100,000 piece of machinery. That's a $150,000 car. Like, treat it like yours, dude. Like, it's not that hard. But with the dealership structures that you see out there, and you'll see as big corporations buy up, I mean, it's all on the spreadsheet. If it doesn't translate into the spreadsheet, it doesn't translate into this long-term vision, which they really don't have, where we have a very long-term, I mean, we did it for 10 years, you know, where we've executed on it, and it's part of a bigger picture. Experience, retention, because frankly, you do as well with keeping service going as you do keeping sales going. So why you wouldn't treat that as an ecosystem that works together, I have no clue. But we do.
So I think part of people's problems at dealerships is these false expectations, right? Like, I remember when I was a kid, you heard these stories of, oh, my dad went to the dealer and he got $20,000 off a new car. And then you just think you're going to get that still today. So maybe we can talk general and then we can get model specific. Mm-hmm. But like, I'm at home, I'm looking at a new car, I see MSRP on Chevy.com's website, it's 80 grand. In my head, what should I be imagining is even humanly possible when I walk into the dealer and talk to you? I'm not going to say, I've got 50 grand cash, let's make a deal, right? There's just not that much room in a car. So like, what's realistic for people to even expect? Is everything at MSRP now? Is maybe 5% or 10%? Like, where, because I'm sure you get customers all the time that are like, yeah, I see you wanted 60, I'll give you 20 grand for it. And you're like, dude, I'm not even going to negotiate now.
Paying over on Corvettes.
Right, and paying over. So like, yeah, let's start with MSRP. Where can I even go from there in a normal transaction?
Are we talking like a normal everyday car?
Yeah.
Normal everyday car, I mean, again, you got to remember, we're a little bit isolated in the Detroit area because it's primarily a employee market, right? You get to some of the non-employee markets, I mean, they're, for normal cars, you know, these big truck markets that do really, really well, they're discounting a couple grand off of a $55,000 truck. And it's kind of crazy when you start calling around and you get the different tone from different regions, and there's different mentalities. Detroit, we're in the middle of 9 dealerships in 12 miles. So when you talk about ultra competitive, like, we have to be, you know, foot to the floor, period. You know, you are basically buying into the volume model that you're going to sell everything you can as fast as you can, however you can. Now you get to some of these other stores, and some of the things that don't apply to them like they do us is a lot of the volume bonuses. So they're kind of like, nope, we're gonna make our gross profit on this, and if you don't want it, guess what? There's not another store in 50 miles, so you're gonna have to drive a long ways, or you're gonna have to come to an agreement here. And it's just the tone and tenor is very regionally specific. Even though you can look at data and you can see across the country what cars are doing. There's so many good data aggregating programs now, but you're going to find that stuff changes quite a bit. And we do a ton of out-of-state stuff because of that. You know, I'll have friends that have moved to Florida that they'd rather pay to get a car hauled out from here down to there because they know they can get the deal. You know, and we need to sell 400 of these a month, so here's the deal. I mean, it's the way it goes.
So if I'm looking at a base C8, I can expect what? And then is it bad for me to tell you, hey, I'm shopping this at the 12 other Metro Detroit dealers? Or should I be acting as if I'm only going to do business with you? Like, what's the best way for a customer to be transparent, but also acting in their best interest?
When it comes to Corvette specific, be transparent with me, because I'll respect your time if you respect mine. And if you tell me you're going to shop 3 other cars, I'll just tell you. I'm like, look, go just do this. Go talk to them and have a conversation like we're talking right now. Ask them if they know the maintenance schedule. Ask them who the technician's name is that works on all their Corvettes. Ask them where they store their Corvettes. Just start going down that list. The one thing I'm big on is, you know, I might not be the cheapest in the world, but I'll be very forward in telling you I think you're going to have a hard time equaling the experience, whether your car was in my showroom and never saw a drop of rain, or some guy was beating on the hood with a snow broom when there was 4 inches of snow on it. There's value in that stuff, right? So that I build off the value quotient, and I look at, again, long-term ownership, especially when we talk about Corvette. You know, most guys at these dealers, again, 3,200 dealers, right, selling 25 to 40,000 Corvettes a year. How many of these guys are dug into it? How many of these guys know that you have to change that canister filter between 7,000 and 8,000 miles, and it can't be a 1 mile over or under to do it? How many of those guys know that you have to look at the trans fluid and know that if you're under 10% at 24 months, you need to do a complete fluid exchange plus the canister filter, stuff like that? Because right now, one of the things I was talking to a customer about earlier was a Porsche guy. And he's like, oh no, this makes total sense. He goes, I know how it goes. He goes, if I miss a maintenance, it's going to cost me 20 grand. Well, we went from a fundamentally unchanged platform for a lot of years. Now, and you know what I'm saying. I'm not saying it was unchanged from 1953, but look, it was the same formula and recipe. It was a world beater for the money, but we went from having a car that had a fluid coupling transmission that went to a DCT. Now, the guy that came out of a C5 or a C6 that had a 4-speed, 6-speed, or even an 8-speed, this guy's never dealt with a DCT before. How is he supposed to know the maintenance is there? You know, it's a different piece of technology. And frankly, the execution of it has been phenomenal, because you can take somebody out of a C7 with an automatic, put them in a C8, and they don't know that it's not an automatic. But again, what are you going to do with your trade value when you've neglected your maintenance because you didn't have somebody that was smart enough to walk you down the line, show you the right person to talk to, introduce you to the technician that's going to be doing your work? There's a lot of value in long-term ownership that goes back into that too.
Yeah, and if you go to a place and they're just the cheapest, but they're far away, and then how does it work with, I always wonder this, like if I buy a car from you, does service know that? Or like if I buy a car from out of state and I bring it to you to service it, is it better or worse to be part of the whole thing, or do you get treated the same? And maybe not you, but maybe everywhere in the world?
Enough to answer.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
You're going to get a mixed bag on that one. Yes. So when we enter the car into GM system, it shows us delivery date and delivery location. We sell vets everywhere. And the whole thing is, you know, I'll have a guy down at the track, hey, I'm having an issue, you know, and it might be a tire pressure thing even, but he's texting me on a Saturday and I'm texting him back. I'm like, hey man, I'll figure this out. Let's try this, and this. You're not going to find that too many places. You're going to find people that look at you and go, "Oh, you didn't buy it here? Oh yeah, we're not going to give you a loaner car. I don't know when we'll get it in, but we'll get it in at some point, and we'll call you. We're not really going to call you, but we'll call you." And it's very frustrating for me because it's harder to build relationships, and there's a lot of people I talk to that are in all kinds of different states. I mean, when it's cold up here, we're shipping to Arizona, Florida, Texas, California. These are all, big markets. So the long and the short of it is you could run into some friction, and I'd say it's likely probable that you're going to. But if you look, if I don't have the car or I can't get you the car and you go buy it somewhere else, I'm not turning you away. You're going to come in. I know the long-term value of having you as a customer because you're going to buy the Tahoe and the Suburban and all that. And I want you to stay in my service department. So when you do trade that in, I have a good piece and I know where everything came from. So it makes sense if you have a long-term vision. If you lack the long-term vision, it's going to be the typical.
Yeah, I see a lot of people. I guess it was fragmented, right? You used to just go to your local dealer and you would buy a car from them for 30 years. And then the internet came up and dealers weren't as good for a while. And people were like, well, now I'm just buying on price alone. I don't care about having a relationship. I don't care about any of these things. Now we're in a different spot again where it's I actually do care about having a relationship, especially as you climb up the ladder and get into these allocations, right? And that whole thing. So maybe walk us through, we hear the word allocation a lot. What are you guys doing? How does this work? If I want a ZR1, why can't I get one? How does someone even come up to be the guy who gets one from a dealer? Talk to me about that, because I'm sure history has a lot to do with that.
Yes, that is a big part of it. Obviously, those who have been getting them for years and years and years, that's kind of the way it goes. Or you're going to have a small dealership that doesn't get very many, and they're just going to throw a bid. They're going to say, hey, we'll take the highest bidder. That's been a thing because, frankly, and people are already saying, they're like, oh, they're building so many ZR1s. I'm like, yeah, but they're not even close to demand. It's the first time in my life that I've gotten a text message where someone said, yeah, I went and bought a 750S. I just couldn't wait any longer. And I'm like, man, at a Chevy store, someone just bought a McLaren instead. What kind of age do we live in? But again, for the money, 225 gets you a absolute rocket ship of a car. And I understand why people like it, but allocations are determined based on how many vehicles you sell. GM's not going to give you the exact formula, but they're going to look at your sales. They're going to look at your inventory. They have this term, which is adjusted days supply, which means it's okay, so you're selling approximately 30 to 40% of your inventory every month. You need more. Or you're selling 90 to 100% of it, you need a lot more. That's largely inventory and allocations are predicated based on this 6-month formula of adjusted days supply. So there's been a lot of times where where I'm at now, where we were at 100%. We were selling through them. The early days of C8, all I was doing is building cars and waiting for them to arrive. That's all there was to it. And we did, and that was MSRP probably up until mid 24. Well, the market caught up after 180,000 of them were produced, which is fair. And the same thing with Z06. The markets move all the time. COVID gave us the black swan event that made everybody either be in a very good position or an objectively horrible position down the road. And you can't make the outlier the norm. It just isn't. And now things are back to normalization. You'll see Z06s with discounts. For a while, the offers I was having on that stuff was just stupid. Our list was predetermined and it was all good. And the amount of people offering to do things to get one of those was absurd. I couldn't believe it. But yes, so do you want a ZR1? Establish a long-standing relationship. Do all your maintenances, do everything with that guy, because that's an insulation for us. I know you're not, John Doe from California that's going to stuff this thing into a container and I'm going to get a GM Nastygram. I would rather deal with people that are long established, that I know are known quantities. It protects us.
So do you have any ZR1s available, just in case anybody's wondering?
I wish. If only I didn't get that question 82 times a day.
What is the craziest offer you've ever received that you can talk about on a podcast publicly for a car? Like, have people just been like, I'll pay you double, I don't care, I'll buy you a bunch of Rolexes, I'll buy you a speedboat? Like, how crazy do people get to get some of these hype cars?
Your imagination, seriously, I'm not kidding you. When people want something like that, they pull out all the stops. It was baffling to me. I'm like, well, these are all promised, so I can put you on the list. No, I need to have one right now. I'm like, I understand you have the means, and I appreciate it, but we're servicing who we told we're going to service. That was the biggest thing. But no, I can't even think of it. There was a 2-month span where I was looking at it going, this guy can't be serious. Like, it was like an everyday occurrence, man. And it would have been like, I think the craziest thing was a boat. Yeah, it was like, the guy's like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I already have a boat, but thank you. It's 15 years old, but he's like, no, I'll put it right in your driveway. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know you bought a couple cars from us. I appreciate it, but like, we're going to go through the process because I still need a job for another 20 years.
Well, there you go.
I'll take
It's got to be a boat and cash. We got it. We got where the bottom line is here. Yeah, it's making sense.
Alan, run through the Corvette lineup for folks that are Mustang folks that are just joining, trying to figure out who the hell you are. Talk about C8 Corvette just in general and the performance level, and like the base car is right for this customer, then the Z06 does this well. Like, just walk us through it a little bit.
Perfect. C8 Stingray is probably, I kind of call it, that's the center of the sports car universe. It is all the car people actually need, right? Without being overkill or underpowered, right? So if you're going to go to the racetrack, if you're going to be a track day bro, track day guy, whatever you guys, I know you guys, I'm amongst drag racers, so I got to be careful here. You're a track guy too. I'd say you grab a Z51. A Z51, and depending on how you want to set it up for the track, Z51 with magnetic ride, I mean, dude, that's an alignment and a brake fluid change away from being an absolute phenomenal car. It's a lot of fun. It's very controllable, and you can have a lot of fun with 500 horsepower. I would tell you statistics show about 4% of people are actually tracking them. I know my audience is probably disproportionately large in that group, but most people, you grab a $83,000 Stingray. We can put a spoiler and a splitter on it. I can make you a car that's going to get you looks. It's going to be great. And you don't need to spend 150 grand. You can we're discounting them. You order it just the way you want. You can get the new hot color, all good. Z06 has probably been the big crossover car. You're getting more people in Porsches coming over to that. I've got a couple guys in Ferraris that they use their Z06 as their, I hate to put it this way, but it's their throwaway track day car. It makes a lot more sense than running a $630,000 12-cylinder down the track. So yeah, that's the nice sweet spot with Z06 is like this car, regardless of the banter of if it's a supercar, hypercar, whatever, it is extreme. I mean, it's exotic sounding. The car is, the emotional attachment to that engine I have is just ridiculous. I've said it a few times, man. You only need 2 or 3 wide open shifts at 8,600 to really change your outlook on it, and that's something we didn't have before. I mean, a GT3 RS has its own sound with the Boxer. Ferrari's always with their flat planes are smaller than ours, but they sound amazing. This is something that's just a different, it's a whole different segment for us. And, the big thing I struggle with, I don't struggle with it, but the big thing I've noticed is I'll get people that come from a Stingray, which, pushrod V8, when you breathe on the start button, you've got 300 pound-feet of torque, to a car that makes its peak closer to 5, 6, 7, 8,000. And there's drivability differences. So this goes back to having somebody that's done this stuff, or you're going to put it on a trailer. There's differences in drivability, stop, go, on track, all that. Z06 is, if you want to have like a very, a striking car that's ultimately, performance capable on the track, That car is really good. It's fun to drive on the track because it puts power down amazingly well. You know, E-Ray is the sleeper car, flat out. E-Ray, much like revving a Z06 out to 8-9 grand, is as good as that is. Go launch an E-Ray and tell me that doesn't change your view on things. E-Ray is it's a much more drivable car. Yeah. Yeah, like it has a completely different personality. Like that car, you know, if you had 10 football fields of asphalt, you could drive that car sideways for like a week. And it is so rewarding because the car has this sense of safety where it's like, oh, I'm a little bit too far, and you can kind of tip in a little bit and just straighten the car up. But it's just being able to do that. And then the thing launches. I mean, you can embarrass nearly everybody at a stoplight with this thing. Like, and then from a drivability aspect, still got a push rod V8. This thing is as daily drivable as anything that's going to even be in the sphere of that car. So I love it. E-Ray is a complete sleeper to me. ZR1 made me question my sanity. That car, it feels like if you're in the passenger seat of one of those, it feels like someone's putting your head right in the front of like a jet on an airplane. It feels like it's going to suck your brains out with two 76 mil turbos right behind you. That car feels like you can accidentally do 200 miles an hour, and it absolutely horrifies me. What's scary about it is the car handles so good. It puts power down so good. The electronics are so good. And you can look at any YouTube reviewer that's done these. That car's scary. Like it scares me because there's such a sense of confidence in how dialed in the chassis is, how good it puts power down. I'm like, I hope people don't get the wrong idea and turn this into a fireball on accident, because it's so good. Like, so, me, if I'm spending my money right now, I have a real hard time not buying a Z06. I'd say most people would be really good with a Stingray. E-Ray is like, again, super underrated. So yeah, and there's different trim levels. The big mistake I think people make is they're going to spend 40, 50 grand in options on a car that they don't necessarily need or use. Now, if you want to spend your money that way, that's fine. But considering your buyer pool at the end of the 3-year period, because let's face it, if you're buying these $150,000, $160,000 cars, there's a big portion of these guys, they're doing it for 18 months to 25 months to 30 months. They know they're going to take a little bit of a hit. If we build the car right, though, it doesn't need to be a $50,000 hit. You know, if you're not going to the track all the time, you know, I can save you probably 20 grand in options, make it visually striking, have a great car for you. And then when you come back on resale, I'm not going to be like, hey, remember when I told you about that $22,000 in options? And we don't have to have that conversation at the end. So again, value is much more than just the transaction price.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Alan Johnson's the best Corvette salesman on the face of the planet. What are you buying? I got some ideas of what I'm thinking. What are you going to buy?
I've been lucky enough to spend time in almost all of them, except for the E-Ray. And everyone I know and trust that loves cars says the E-Ray is the one. So I really do want to spend some time in the E-Ray, especially with the way I like to drive cars. You know, it's more of a all-weather Corvette, if you will, in a way. And up here in Michigan, that's cool. But also, I like the blending of the two things. Now, E-Ray front, Z06 back. You know, we could start talking about some things, but
Sweet. We're gonna get there.
yeah, well, you know, so we'll see what the future holds. The ZR1 to me, to your point, like absolute monster, absolute animal. But same with the Z06 a little bit. They're so good. Yeah. That you don't really feel like you're going that fast on the street. And that's not good, because I want to feel like I'm going fast, so then I am going real fast, you know, and that's kind of a problem. So I think for me, the sweet spot in the lineup right now would be the E-Ray, and it is the only one I haven't touched. How about you?
I drove a Z06 on Woodward just briefly, and it was enough for me to go, my God, this is a whole nother car. Yeah. You know, and I have a C7 Z06, which is a fast car. The new one's a monster.
But even back to Stingray, I mean, they all have launch control. Like the new interior has a couple cool little things where you can click launch control right on. That car's still mind-bendingly fast. I mean, it amazes me that we're talking about a car that's like 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, being the slower variant. That used to be like, I'm not even sure the F40 was that fast, but we're putting up numbers that bona fide supercars, hypercars used to chase. And we're doing it every day in like nearly every model. It's mind blowing.
Well, I mean, C5 Z06 was the future of America, which is still one of the sickest cars ever.
Dude.
I've been lucky enough to have 3 of them, and I will have more of them in the future. That car to me is a perfect blend of like, chassis wasn't too sorted, engine was great, it felt fast everywhere. You didn't have to go 200 miles an hour to have fun in it. But that car made 405 horsepower, right?
Yeah.
And that is the pinnacle at the time. And now the base Stingray makes more than that.
Yep.
And people are like, I don't like it. I don't care about it. It's crazy how far we've come.
You ever realize that you look back on cars and for all the things that the magazines used to, knock them for lack of a better term, and between tire technology, damper technology, all that stuff we've had, you ever go back to like a C6 Z06 and just, it's such a great feeling that 505 horsepower one sounds like that. I still get a little bit of a feeling that this thing might really hurt me if I'm not careful. It's those things that made that car not as perfect as the new ones that endear ourselves to them a little bit. I mean, there's some validity to taking out a C6Z and kind of getting a little hairy with it at 60 miles an hour instead of 160 miles an hour. But, I think you got to credit GM pretty big on this. I don't think there's a better group of chassis and drivetrain guys like in the business as it goes, because you jump in that car. I just don't know of another car that I can look in the manual and says, hey, you need to put 2 degrees of negative camber all the way around. You need to change the brake fluid. And oh, by the way, have a really good time. Keep your documentation. If anything happens, we got you.
Let's go.
Yeah, man. I mean, we've done this straight to track transfer better than any other company for that specific application. And, fortunately I've been in it for a little while. So, road racing is a fun thing for me, but tell me who's doing it better. You can look at all the big guys in YouTube space and all that, and they all will tell you, whether it's a Blackwing Cadillac, whether it's a Corvette, these things are dialed in and they're a hell of a lot of fun because of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you from my perspective, going to track days with GT3s and Ferraris and Lotuses and all the things that you would normally find at a track day, when you first get there, people were like, I've even had instructors be like, oh, yeah. Okay, what is this? Like, it's a Grand Sport. I'm like, okay, it's gonna want to step out. We're gonna have to be slow. You're gonna have to, you really got to watch it. And 4 laps in, they're like, what is this?
Yep.
Does it always handle like this? How come I've never driven one of these before? Like, I've had guys in GT3s get in my car or be behind it, get into the pits and be like, what's done to that thing? Like, nothing. They're like, no. Well, it
shouldn't be this
supercharged. It makes 4,000 horsepower. It's like, it is a surprising car. And then I think to your point on the Z06s, guys that have Ferraris and are like, wait, I don't want to wad up a Ferrari, but I can get in this thing, a little throwaway Z06, and go faster than my Ferrari on track because I trust it and it's tuned to do this and I'm not as terrified of it. But man, the capability of these things is unbelievable. It's just crazy.
Between the ZL11LE and the Grand Sport, like the 2 cars we were talking about, those cars were terrorizing track days. I still got all the pictures of my ZL1, climbing up on GT3s like I was about to eat their lunch. And there's really nothing more satisfying than, I remember a year after that car came out and all of a sudden you'd see half a dozen of them at every track day. And the Porsche guys just like, oh God, not this guy again. And it was the best feeling in the world. Getting the point buy in a $300,000 GT3 was just wonderful.
We were going through this rubric with someone the other day. They had a 18 GT3. They sold it. They're like, what should I get now? Got $165,000 in cash laying around, but I don't want to spend it all on a car. I'm like, well, ZL11LE, C7 Grand Sport, or if you want to be extra cool, 5th Gen Z28 are like my 3 that I would be.
Oh, that's pretty good holy trinity of pretty gnarly cars, man.
Yeah, and they're all like $50,000 to $65,000. Like, they're all in a pretty nice range right there.
But if you think about it, relative to what those things cost new, those things have held up really, really well for a reason. But again, when we talked, what do you want to do with the car? Okay, you're going to be driving, like you're going to be putting miles on this. A Grand Sport with MR was like the car. I put like 7,000 track miles on my ZL1, and I'm telling you, man, that was extremely satisfying. But you came to a knife fight with a rocket launcher with that car, and everybody knew it after about a year, and it was great.
Alan, talk about the life cycle of a Corvette buyer. And you touched on this, but they've got an earlier car, they got into it, they keep moving along. I've done this too, right? You've helped me, right? You just keep progressing with the brand. Give some insight to the owner, and then talk about the used car market I know you're going to hone in on the Corvette buyer, but maybe just the used car market in general right now, which we know is kind of nuts. But walk us through that from your perspective.
Yeah, well, I mean, very typical for Corvette is, the new model comes out, and when it went from, front mid-engine to rear mid-engine, obviously there was some big marketing around that, and the car proved itself out. So you had those people, and the evolution that you watch how people build cars, I always look at it and it's like, okay, again, let's talk about what your use case is on this, because there's that 12-month hype phase where everybody wants every option and they're paying all the money for every single option. That's cool. But when that wears off, you have to understand the market normalizes. And that's kind of where we're at right now, because, again, we've sold 25 to 40,000 of these things. So Z06, I tell everybody, these are depreciating assets. You buy this because you want it, not because you need it, to be transparent and really take them off guard for being a salesman. And, it's like, but be mindful of that. So you do have a lot of guys that are going to do the step up, right? Those first 2 or 3 years in Stingray, people were getting good money for them a year and a half afterwards. And they were like, hey, I want to put an order in for a Z06. Hey, I'll pay sticker. I'll do this. And then, a year after that, Z06 was still getting good money. So like, hey, I'm going to order a new one. So they would rinse and repeat, right? And then we had the COVID effect that just supercharged that sentiment. And now it's to a point where this is a normal Corvette life cycle. I look at our business and it's, we have to be more than just in Detroit, Michigan. We got to be everywhere. If we're going to sell 30 Corvettes a month, we have to sell them everywhere. So yeah, I got to be price competitive, but I also have to have value add to attract those buyers. So yeah, you're going to see that step up. And then you'll know these guys because you're going to get the car that has every option. He wants every option on the next car, no matter what. What are you doing with it? Nah, I'm just going to drive to church and stuff. And you want to do that on Cup 2Rs? I don't care. I want all the boxes. Cool. I won't tell you how to spend the money. I really won't. But, and then that's the guy that's going to want a ZR1. And in between then, he's gotten a Mustang GTD. He's gotten a Raptor R, and he's gotten, yeah, no, but that's it, right? So there's two different types, right? And the other type is going to be your more typical buyer. This guy, it might be an aspirational vehicle. So this guy might own this car for 10 or 15 years. He might be trading in an 06, C6. And it's like, okay, now it's more important that I talk to this guy about some very specific stuff down the road. And then you're going to get the new money guys. Guys that have done really, really well, they want to treat themselves. They're going to click every box. They'll make it any color combination they want, and they don't care what anybody else thinks. And that's cool, man. Live your best life. I'm good with that. In typical cars, we're not putting the miles on these. So what ends up happening is in the used car market now, we have this really, really good opportunity where you can go find a Stingray for 50, 60 grand. And I'd started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the track. Do I spend 135 grand on the Z06? Maybe I go spend 65 grand and maybe I do some wheels and tires and dampers. Maybe I put some new brakes on it. You guys know aftermarket's a $16 billion industry. C8 Stingray is ripe for that right now. And I'm more inclined to go spend, 60 grand on a car that somebody's babied its whole life. And then I go out and use it up like I want to. And I've saved myself 30 grand. So there's multiple opportunities. It just depends what your use case is and how much you care about money.
Yeah, the used car thing for Corvette is funny because I just wrote down C5Zs have basically been 25 to 30 grand for a decade. Literally, yes. They depreciated and now they're there. C6Z, 35 to 40, kind of just planted there. Yep. C7Z, 60 to 65, kind of planted there. C8 Stingray now, coming into the 60s, somewhere in there. So like now you've got to choose between C7Z and a regular Stingray, which I think there's pros and cons for both. C8 can't go that low. C8Z can't go that low, right? Because you've got this kind of fortress of the other three holding it there. So where do you see the C8Z market kind of settling in the short term, or is it?
No, I think, well, look, I don't know for a fact, but I mean, we look at ZR1X, ZR1, and Z06. The basis of it's the Gemini motor, right? So as we add models, I mean, it's logical to think that when we produce more of another model, it's going to limit us in some of the other ones. So I think C8 Z06 right now, it's settling into a good buying proposition. If you can find a 23, you may find yourself in a sub 100K, car that's got that, and that's a tremendous value. I mean, you're getting more car than the world's ever seen for that money. But there, right now, if you look at it, with the price increases that we've seen over the years, I think Z06 is kind of settling. I think we're going to have a little bit of a dip. But I think also I'm seeing enough people that can't get ZR1s that are like, you know what, this thing sounds amazing, and they're jumping into Z06. So I don't think we're going to see a big deviation. I think once we get that 3 model year mark, which we're about there, you're going to see a little bit of the dip because now you're going to have 3-year-old models, and those are going to come in at that 90, 100K. And at that point, still the people that have had those, you've had a world-class car. You might spend 120 grand on. So you took, 30 grand of depreciation in 3 years. Like, I mean, I know they're depreciating assets, but there's some car makes out there that you can go spend your money and you lit half of it on fire by the time you turn the key. So it's still a very good buying proposition in my opinion from that regard.
Yeah, because I'm poor, my number has been anything with an 8 as the starting number for a C8Z. Is like the greatest. If you could get one for $89,000 at some point in the future, there is no better car for 90 grand that's probably ever been built. I mean, and I'm not the biggest C8 fan, but there is a price at which it's like, there's not even a competition here. I mean, you'd have to spend double that, right?
No, I agree wholeheartedly. You're going to find outlier cars there. You'll find that one-off that's like a 42,000 mile car. And look, man, if it's been driven and cared for, that's a steal, man. Go, like I tell everybody, if you're really on the fence and you've never owned a Corvette before, look at some of the pre-owned options. Start 30 grand back, have some money to play with, let somebody put the first nick in it, and go drive it, own it, and enjoy it like you want to. But it depends. Some people really enjoy cleaning their cars, and God bless, man. I'm not here to gatekeep the culture. I don't care. Enjoy it however you want.
Yeah, I'm on the cheap track rat one. So if you got one at 80, hit me up.
Wait, it was 89 a minute ago.
80. That's 89. We'll start at 89. Right. Alan will call you.
On record.
Alan, I saw on the internet the other day that there's a C8 Grand Sport coming. What options can I get on a C8 Grand Sport?
I'll let you know as soon as I know. What's current and relevant is what I work on. Historically, I tell everybody, anybody that asks me any question, this is just like as we're sitting at my desk, look at the car historically. Historically, it'll tell you the whole story. Grand Sport has been like a staple. It's one of my favorite models over the years, C6 and C7 for that matter, right? Until it's announced and I have anything official, I don't know. I have no clue. But look, it's been a wide body car, right? C6, C7, look back at history.
What did you hear? Maybe you can fill in the blanks here. I'm curious.
I've signed enough NDAs. I'm not wading into this waters, but
yeah, look at you too.
I would say that the blue, white stripe, red C7s and all the way back to the C4 is such a cool color combo. And if such a thing were to happen in the future, that would be super sick. That's where I'm going to leave it.
I built a lot of the Captain America, Admiral Blue, white striped. Yeah, I still, that's another one I want to add.
On the topic of weird combos now, one thing that I didn't even know existed until I saw you make a video about it, is this split interior thing, which now I'm fucking in love with. So tell people who are not up to speed with this what you can do, because I think it's super cool.
Yeah, so are you talking from the design standpoint or the hardware standpoint? Because there's actually more to the asymmetric than just the fact that you can get two different colored seats. Yeah, it's actually, this is one of those things we talked about that we're like, oh, it'd be really cool if you put a comp seat on the driver's side and then you put like the GT2 seat on the passenger side, right? Because maybe not everybody wants to get in on the passenger side. So there's two different options. The asymmetric interior, you can get the same seat, but it would be opposing colors, right? So the driver's side's red, the passenger side is going to be black, and the interior is kind of blended and split where it's a combination of like adrenaline red and jet black. The combo I'm absolutely enamored with is the comp seat on the driver's side and the GT2 seat. Like, the quality control guys would probably want to put a bullet in my head for saying this because I'm sure they're going nuts over it, but that is one of the coolest out of the box thinking things. And, you know, it's got the satin stripes that follow the scheme right down the middle. I got a silver one right now that has that, and my God, does it look good. It looks so good. And it's one of those things, if you're OCD, like most of us track guys are, you look at this thing and feel like it should be maddening, right? Like you should look at this and say, where's the other seat? And then you look at it and you're like, damn, that really works.
No, I think it's cool, especially if you do the right stripe combo and get that kind of that whole thing dialed in. But I did not know that you could do two different seats.
Yes.
So that's badass. I love that.
Yeah.
Alan, what would you tell vehicle manufacturers, not just Chevrolet, I know you're focused on Corvette, but as a salesperson at a dealership, what could vehicle manufacturers do to make your life easier?
Man, that's a great question. I would tell you, you know, there's going to be some constructive feedback, but from an incentive side, you know, I think there could be a long list of things we could do, but finding these manufacturers that have rather specific niche vehicles, having something further developed so you can bring people into them. They don't need to be somebody that was swinging wrenches as a baby. An academy that's very comprehensive. There's a lot of things I could go over here. I wish we had, you know, separate rooftops for certain brands and stuff like that, right? But that's out of my pay grade. But I really do think if we had something really focused, comprehensive, and it would have to be a buy-in on both sides, you know, and maybe it's somebody that like they start in year one, they can work their way up after 5 years because it's a very transient business, right? So something with some incentive for longevity, you know, that would serve the customer in that respect is nothing but good for the dealers. You know, having these oddly specific vehicles like we have, we never thought we were going to have 800 horsepower trucks for funsies. We didn't think we were going to have 1100 horsepower Corvettes that you can take out and just rip at the ring with, you know. So I think there's an element of that for all the manufacturers. I mean, Ford's got the GTD, you know, Dodge's, you know, you got your TRXs and SRT's been killing it. Like, it really feels like if we had a dedicated team that was to work with those people. And it's like, okay, this guy's been with us for 3 or 4 years. You know, this guy, we're helping him because that translates to the customer. Because you know how this goes. The most loyal customers end up being the enthusiasts. You know, enthusiasts keep the car game really going. Yes, we all need refrigerators and dishwashers, and that's why we have things like EVs and pickup trucks and stuff like that, because yes, we all need them. But the enthusiasm that's out there right now, and we kind of dovetailed off of this one golden age, and I feel like we're going right into another one of, you know, we have some massive power. We have ultimately capable cars. We're going off-road. We're going on-road. We got guys doing donuts and Corvettes in Washington Square in the middle of the wintertime. Like, this was unfathomable 40 years ago. So yeah, I think if you had some enthusiast brands built from within, that you had a more work in lockstep versus in opposition, you know, I think that would go a really long ways. And look, we've done a lot. It's come a long ways, you know, from the C8 early launch on the C8. They did a dealer advisory council that I ended up being part of, and they did a lot of really, really good things. But man, how much has that brand grown in 5 years now? Like that thing's going to the moon. I mean, 1,250 horsepower out of a Vette with an electric motor in the front. I mean, it's like this is insanity.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Like, if you ever thought you were in the golden age of cars, you're in it right now.
Yep.
And it's easy to be like, oh, it was back in the day. No, it's right now. People are building all three of the OEs here are building the craziest things they've ever built. And the 800 horsepower ones aren't even, that's just normal. That's normal stuff now. It's insane out there.
How that's normal, it still bends my mind. And it's funny because I think it goes back to people not realizing what we really have. You know, you can own a car and never know that you've only gone to a fraction of its potential. Like when you buy a Corvette, you get that $1,000, you get the $1,000 class, you can go out to Spring Mountain, you go use their cars, pro drivers, and then I will tell you right now, anybody that hadn't been on a track before that, they have that aha moment of, oh shit, this thing's way more than I thought it was. And that's on Stingray, that's on Z06, it's on all of them. So yeah, I think the enthusiasts are definitely fueling the fire.
Go through the Spring Mountain experience a little bit for folks that don't know what that is. We're really close to it, but talk about Spring Mountain and what that does for Corvette.
Oh, it's such a good ownership value add. You know, it's like a $4,000 class, but they bring you out, you got to fly out to Las Vegas and you got to drive like 56 miles to Pahrump, which is the middle of nowhere on the way to Death Valley. But out there's this marvelous track. They have like 4 or 5 major configurations. You go through a 2-day school. What they've done a really nice job of is integrating vehicle systems into it. But you're going to get time on track. What I really, really like, they go through exercises where they genuinely make you lose control of the car so you can feel what that feels like. And I think that is one of the most invaluable things you can have in a car that's got such a tall performance envelope that there's a lot of value in figuring out, oh, okay, this was too far. So you do that, then you have time on track. So you're going to do autocrosses, you're going to do all kinds of exercises to kind of sharpen you up. And then you do have on track sessions where you're going to go as hard as you can and the instructor's going to adjust appropriately. But everything from their staff, they're absolutely awesome down there. Real pro drivers, a couple of guys that have run like, a NASCAR and IndyCar back in the day. But it's very accommodating and it's like the best $1,000 you could spend, like full stop. It does so much for the ownership experience past just driving the car, understanding the systems. That was brilliant. And I know they started that 20 some years ago as a tent in the desert. And now it's, stay in your nice luxury condominium, on your way to your, car to the racetrack. It's very good.
It goes along with your comment about the golden age of vehicles. You got to have some training with these things as fast and capable as they are.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be humbled, you can think you're as badass a driver as you want to think you are. You can fly out to Spring Mountain and then say to the instructor, like, hey, I want to be in the front here. I don't want to get held up by any of these guys. You will be driving at what you believe is 10 tenths behind an instructor in a Cadillac who is one-handed driving and talking on the radio to the 5 cars behind you.
While your wife's riding shotgun with him.
And he's not even at 3 tenths yet, and you are at the limit. And then you really get to understand, okay, this is a machine that is far, but what I thought was the edge, I'm not even in the envelope yet. I'm so far from that. And I think the other cool point here is that other people are doing this too. Like Dodge had the Bondurant thing for a while. Ford has the ST Academy. If you buy the Explorer, they have the Raptor thing too. So like,
Ford's in Charlotte.
Yeah, and then they have the Mustang deal in Charlotte. So like, there's so many cool experiences here. Porsche obviously has their center in Atlanta, which is cool. But like, a lot of people, you think, I've driven them, I don't care, I'm jaded, I'm too cool to go to those things. You go to NCM, you go to any of these schools, it's well worth the time and money. It's fun, 1, and 2, you'll come out of it being like, oh, I thought I was at the limit. The tires I'm not even using them yet.
Yeah, they're almost to warm.
Yeah.
No, I've been fortunate. I've been humbled by traveling with a guy that's so much better than me that, I've learned a lot over the years, and John, as you know, it's insane. I get in a car with him, and there's been times, I remember the first time at my brand new ZL11LE, we were going into I think it was like turn 7 or something, and I had this click in my head, and it just dried out, and I'm like, oh shit, we're not going to make this. Like, he wrote the check, I don't know who's cashing it, and of course we make it out and wear out a set of tires in 38 minutes and go through a tank of gas in 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, you talked about the engineers a minute ago, but to circle back on that, I don't think people understand the engineers. I'm going to just talk about Corvette for a minute. Mm-hmm. They're all drivers. Yeah. They're all amazing drivers.
Yeah.
They basically all track cars on the weekend too. So they're not just driving the free cars, they're driving their own cars. And you ride with any of them in any of these cars, and it's like, again, I've never turned or accelerated a car in my life. I didn't know a car could brake like that. It is unbelievable. And that then flows into the car, but then it also flows into the accessories that they sell and the performance parts that they sell. So like, that is a big deal right now. And I think all three of the OEs are doing a great job of putting the right people in those spots.
Yeah, no doubt. If you ever want to be humbled by a Camaro SS1LE, you see a gang of those guys show up, and it's unbelievable how fast they are. So the fact that they're developing, building, and doing the stuff on their own, whether it's a Spec Miata, SS1LE, ZL11LE, Grand Sport, whatever, you name it, they're out there doing it. And I think it lends a lot of credence to the passion that they actually put behind it. I can't speak highly enough of those guys. They make our job a lot easier by building a car like that.
I think the future of this industry, we don't bring politics in this, but it looks like we're wide open, Alan. We talked a little bit before we turned the microphones on, but you want to give maybe 2-year, 4-year outlook of where performance cars and performance trucks are going to be in this space?
I mean, what we're seeing now, I think everything. I mean, you saw the TRX come back out, and they're like, hey, it's back. And I think this is kind of the beginning of that renaissance of we're going to go from insane, and we're going to turn it up to 12. And I'm excited, man. I mean, you've got a $500,000 Mustang that Ford's having a race shop build for you. You've got Corvette dropping 1,250 horsepower cars. There's a little something for everyone. And the big complaints, everything's so expensive. But hey, man, like we were just talking, 50, 60 grand gets you a nice used car, right? And everyone's like, that's still a lot of money. I'm like, the average new car cost is in the mid 50s. And I don't know if you guys saw it the other day. Did you see what the average new car payment is? It's approaching $1,000. And that's average. Corvette is anything but average, right? And to think that you can go grab an $80,000 Stingray and step into an $800 payment versus a average car payment. Like, seriously, man, there's a whole lot more value there than I think most people realize. And, Dodge is delivering too. They know their customer base, man. And those guys are fanatical.
Where do you see the future of dealerships? Because it seemed like there was a moment in time where it was like, okay, Tesla doesn't have dealers, and that's going to be the model, and we're going to get rid of these dealers, and I'm just going to hit buy now on Chevy.com, and it's going to show up at my house. And then it seems like that's kind of faded. We spent a lot of time talking about having a relationship and having someone who knows what they're talking about and having a relationship with the service department. So where do you see dealers in the future?
Well, it's just like any type of vehicle. I don't think there's a silver bullet solution for anything. We can try to Amazon car stuff, but the fact of the matter is every year we're stuffing more and more technology into the point where buttons are evaporating and they're going virtual into a touchscreen. I think there's going to have to be a certain element of retention of people that need to be able to walk people through this. And I think, Tesla's done some things, and I've heard good things, and I've also heard I can't get help when I need it. And it's like, well, again, it's not a silver bullet, man. It's just like an EV. There's a good use case for it, but it's not every single one. So I think there's going to be some consolidation at some point. As you see private equity dollars, I mean, you're seeing dealer acquisitions happening all the time now. I mean, you're seeing dealers acquire large dealers and spin 2 of them off within a day to someone in the local market because it's not their demo or whatever. So there's going to be a lot of movement in that. I'm fortunate. I work for a family-owned company, and the culture and, the long-term vision has remained consistent, and that's a stability that knowing people in the car industry, that's not everywhere. A lot of these big groups, they treat those jobs as transient jobs. They're just going to line up bodies. So I think, my whole thing is I need to feed me and my family. So my whole thing is if I can set myself apart and do all these things that I feel like are going to be, tangible things needed over the course of the next 10, 20 years, whatever, I think that's where real opportunities for success are going to be. The dealer model, I mean, again, I think you're just going to keep seeing these things changing hands, with the involvement that private equity's had. You're going to see a lot of that stuff. So the most important thing, no matter what you buy, is if you have somebody that really is specialized, you go to them. Like, have somebody be your go-to for everything. You could save $300 at a place, but is the $300 worth the headache you're going to cause yourself in the next 5 years? I mean, I get it. Like I said, if it's a geographic thing, we adjust, but still.
Alan, you've always been the best kept secret in the Corvette world, right? You've had that circle. You've been around specific people that have set you apart, but recently you've opened yourself up and you're everywhere. We can see you on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, but it's Driven with Alan. That's your channel. And you and I had a conversation when we started this podcast in July, and you were like, man, that's what I want to do. And I wanted to say thanks for doing it. You're out there and you're sharing your knowledge with the world now. How's that going? Give us a play-by-play.
It's been really good. It's kind of like everything. The biggest hurdle was just starting. You watch any of these videos on creators and all that stuff, and I watched the Mr. Beast one where he said, well, your first 100 videos are going to suck. So I'm like, okay, cool. There's no pressure. These are going to suck, and I'm going to put them up, and a few people are going to see them, and I'm going to get a few comments and whatever. It's gone pretty well, though. I think the important thing was recognizing that you don't need a million hits on everything to get effective views. I get from the feedback, at least from the analytics, and I'm still learning this stuff. I don't really know much about anything, but it's looking at like 400,000 or 500,000 hits over all platforms over the course of a 28-day with 15,000 plus engagements, and it's gotten to the point where I'm getting messages. Hey, can you do a video on this? Hey, this is what I like to do with the car. Can you do some example builds? So I'm winging it. Like, I'm totally cowboying this thing. I did one the other day in my office at home with no voice. And I'm like, oh, here's 3 builds. By the way, I can't edit, so I'm just going to point my phone at my screen. Sorry for the glare. But I enjoy it. The feedback, I've always been kind of in that community, whether it's been in Corvette clubs when I was a kid with my dad, to everything over the past 25 years. It's always been a community I've been a part of. And, I'm having fun with it. Like, it's enjoyable. A lot of the things that I've done, it was coming from, we would talk about it after your podcast. I'm like, dude, I was thinking about this. And then I just throw something out there to see if it worked. And there's a lot more error here in the trial and error, but there's things that have worked. I enjoy it. I want to expand on it in a bigger way, show some of my service guys. They're like the unsung heroes of this stuff that most people don't give any credit for. Credit to, and yeah, I want to expand that stuff and show those guys. I love it, man. I'm enjoying it. I could talk for hours on cars.
We talk about this all the time, but just start. The first 100 are going to suck. Actually, some of them are going to be good, and you're going to get to learn from that, and it'll be exciting. And also, the things that you do day to day might seem normal to you, like you spec Corvettes all day, every day. That is not an exciting thing for you, but it's very exciting for a viewer who's never done that before, or just has bought Porsches and now wants to learn about, right? So what you think, viewer at home or listening to this, what you think is boring to you is super exciting to a large population, right? And just get your message out there.
Well, it's the most fun I've had was the feedback I've gotten from competitive guys. I'm starting to get a lot of Porsche guys and Ferrari guys, and it's cool because they've been in their ecosystem for so long. They can tell me a Porsche better than I could ever imagine, but now we can talk and they're like, hey man, you know, my GTS had PCBs and I ran Sport Chrono and I did this. I'm like, oh cool. Well, let's kind of do this. Are you good with the carbon brakes, or do you want to go with the metallic ones? Are we going to the track? Like, believe it or not, I actually really enjoy it. Like, I know speccing them, but like, also, I get to do so many different combinations that I'll be doing something. I'm like, oh, damn, that looks really good. And it's like, we'll order one, or, you know, we'll buy one from another dealer that's similar. And then, like, with that wing that we put on that green one, I looked at it, I'm like, this thing looks stunning. Like, for $1,800, like, you're not going to lose money on this thing. Like, that's a great option to have. Or you look at an $11,000 aero package. Okay, you're not going to the track. So my gears are always turning, and I really genuinely have enjoyed it because it's highlighted some things that I wasn't even really aware about in some of these other makes. Like, I got into a whole discussion with a guy on TikTok. He's like, oh yeah, I've been a long time Ferrari owner. He goes, I basically look at every Ferrari on the used market thinking that the odometer's been clocked. And I'm like, wow. And then I started looking into it, and all of a sudden, well, Lamborghinis are real easy to put an odo stop on. So it's like, you know, then it goes back to, okay, well, we have a pretty secure electrical architecture. Nobody can even tune this thing on a Z06. I don't know how they're going to twist the odometer back, you know? So, I mean, there's some upsides to revealing some of this stuff. And I've had a lot of fun talking to those guys. It's been great.
Yeah, you want to talk about a weird car to learn about speccing. The 911 thing is crazy. If you haven't gone down that path, it's like, oh, you bought it without the cigarette smoker package? Well, now it's worth no. It's like the most nuanced things are important there, and the Sport Chrono and all that. So whatever, there are guys that know that, and then there's guys like you that know that for Corvette, right? And again, what you think is normal can be really exciting for other people at home. So it's anyone listening who's like, man, I should start doing something. Start.
No, absolutely. And fortunately where I'm at, I mean, I know you haven't been up in a minute, but you know, we've got an entire wall now. We have all three of the seats hanging on the wall. We've got different caliper combinations. I got different wheels hanging up. We got a whole office. I mean, look, you're either original or you're copying somebody. Look, I went to a couple Porsche places, and you know, when they built this stuff out, I'm like, let's do the Porsche thing. Like, it's really cool. I go into this big office with these really nice chairs, and I got a big old TV out back. So you want to see what the stitching looks like? Cool. I'll throw it on the car. Boom. It's right on the screen. Stuff like that again, value is more than just the transaction price. We're doing stuff to kind of enhance the value. And that's kind of me living my dream out, being able to, okay, now we can take Corvette to the next level. You know, I think this is the way it should be done. We think this is the way it should be done. And everybody that's done that has really enjoyed it. So it's elevating the experience because we're knocking on the door of $300,000. So we probably ought to deliver that experience.
89,000, still my number.
Well, I'm glad you're back to 89.
Yeah. So anyone who's watching this or listening to this, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So, Driven with Alan is all my socials. We have a website going up on that. ajohnson@maddoxchevy.com is my email. You can message, comment. I'm basically living on my phone. My phone's giving me a 14-hour, warning for my screen time use. So it's where I'm at, man. But I enjoy it. Like, I've lived this stuff my whole life, so.
That's it. We got all the dealership secrets.
I learned so much, and you bought a Corvette today. It's been a pretty good podcast.
And I always knew that the little 4-box thing was a fucking scam. So now I know that.
The worst, dude.
All right. That's the pod.